If you're watching this video, you're probably a Paper Mario fan with strong opinions on the games in this series, and want to see what I have to say about your favorite game. Today, I'm going to be ranking all 6 Paper Mario games from best to worst in my own personal, subjective opinion. At number 6, we have Paper Mario Sticker Star. This is what most of you expected to be here, and it's for good reason. There's just so many objectively bad design choices, and it still baffles me how Nintendo made a very similar sequel to this game, and then a sequel of that game. It looks great for a 3DS game, and has an alright soundtrack, but that's about it. There's absolutely no story for a series that was known for having at least some plot to keep the player engaged and following along. And this was the successor to Super Paper Mario, widely regarded as the best story in any Mario game. You could find a new Super Mario Bros. Story that's on par with this. Besides the story, there's just no unique characters or environments, which a lot of people blame Miyamoto for, but that whole situation could be its own video. Everyone loved the brand new characters in the first 3 games and the really strange and unfamiliar environments, but Sticker Star is pretty much just has Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Shy Guys, generic Toads, and Bowser as the main villain. And you have unique environments like grasslands, deserts, jungles, and a frozen tundra. The battle system is completely pointless as there is no XP. You're better off avoiding enemies and using your stickers for mandatory boss fights, otherwise it's really just a waste. The first 2 games, and even Super to an extent, force you to fight enemies or else you would be severely underpowered, made battles rewarding and serve a purpose, and really all you can do to get stronger is find these heart containers like you're in a Zelda game, I guess get powerful stickers outside of battle, but all you use those for is the boss fights. Another huge flaw is the backtracking. Many RPGs do have backtracking, including most of the Mario RPGs, and it works to various degrees. But Sticker Stars is just so horrible and stupid. It just seems like no thought was put into it, like they just spun a wheel and said we're gonna put it in this level. All you do is go to a random level and hope you can find a specific thing you need to advance in a later level. There aren't really any hints or anything either, just a random exploration, which might be fine if these items were somewhere around where you would expect it, but sometimes it's in completely different worlds. One of the few semi-redeeming qualities in this game is that the soundtrack is alright. It's nowhere near the level of the other games, but it certainly does its job. I really can only remember a few songs from this game though, so let me know in the comments if I'm just missing anything. Overall, I just really don't like Sticker Star, and it was not difficult at all to put it as the worst on the ranking. It's honestly one of the worst Nintendo games I've ever played from start to finish. I was so disappointed when this came out because I had played Super a few years prior and it became one of my favorite games of all time. And I still just want to know what Nintendo was, and I guess still is thinking when it comes to the series. Number 5, Paper Mario Color Splash. Color Splash is better than its 3DS predecessor, but it's still not a great game, and not particularly close to being one. I'll start off with a positive, since it is at least an improvement. I really do love the soundtrack here, as it has such a unique theme. Many of the songs have a pseudo-jazz ragtime feel to them, and you can really hear the orchestral sounds in many pieces as well. The game also looks fantastic. Even though it's almost 9 years old, it still looks great. I'm not a fan of the whole obsession with making everything paper. I prefer the first 3 games just using it as an art style and not having the entire game actually be completely made out of paper, but it looks great nonetheless. I've seen some people get really pressed when I've said this, because apparently since it's called Paper Mario, that means everything needs to be a cardboard cutout, every gimmick needs to be paper. But in Japan, the original Paper Mario was called Mario Story because it's just supposed to be like a storybook, not a paper diorama. Being paper isn't supposed to be the entire theme of the game. It's more of just an aesthetic decision, or at least it was. But moving on, the humor is also pretty enjoyable, but after that, there's really not many positives, and I can't really think of much more. The story still feels like an afterthought, and once again, the environments and characters just feel uninspired again. I mean, there's a few bright spots, but they're few and far between. Bowser's the main villain again. Well, kind of. He's possessed by the black paint, and I mean, yeah, it's a different character, but it's not the most interesting of the Paper Mario villains. The battle system is also once again pretty pointless. The only value it has is you can upgrade the amount of paint you can store, but it doesn't really do that much. You can already store so much, and it gives you just a marginal upgrade. I mean, I guess it's at least something though. It's better than Sticker Star. Additionally, it is super tedious to battle, as it takes forever to use a card. You have to select it on the gamepad, fill it with the paint, swipe up, rinse and repeat over and over again. Color Splash really feels like an improved version of Sticker Star, but that really isn't saying much. It took a bad game and made it kind of mediocre instead of flat out terrible. These first 2 games are really only worth playing if you find them for a cheap price and are just a huge Paper Mario fan. Subscribe if you're enjoying this so far. Number 4, Paper Mario the Origami King. I know a lot of people, especially younger fans who aren't around yet for the first 3 games, really love Origami King. And while it was significantly better than Color Splash and it took more steps forward from where Color Splash was, it still is very much a Color Splash sequel and it has the same basic formula. I just don't really like the style that Sticker Star laid out, and Origami King, while it's not the same, is definitely using the same style, so there's really only so much I can enjoy it. Unlike the previous games on the list though, I did actually get a decent amount of enjoyment out of Origami King. The previous two games I either just did not like or thought they were mediocre at best. I think Origami King is a solid game on its own. I mean, the soundtrack is just absolutely amazing and gets better the more I listen to it. The world is a lot more open this time as you don't have a world map going level to level, which I think is an improvement. The main villain throughout the game is King Ali, so for the first time since Super, which came out 13 years before this game, there's truly a unique final boss. I mean, unless you want to count the black paint, but he's possessing Bowser, so it's kind of a mix. Partners are kind of back. You don't control them at all, but it's still something. Like, this is better than just having your one companion in the previous two games. And like Color Splash, this game also looks fantastic. However, the story, while better than the recent two games, does not hold up to the original trilogy. Everything is still paper except some bosses, which I'll get to momentarily, and as I've said before, it was called Paper Mario as the design was just supposed to take inspiration from a storybook, not have the entire world actually made out of paper. This is the third game in a row they're doing this, and I'm just not a fan of this, especially after 3 games. I think TTYD perfected the paper gimmicks where it was just used for some powers and wasn't thrown in your face the whole game. Now, there are definitely some more unique environments than the past 2 games, but once again, it pales in comparison to the original trilogy. The combat system is better now, and as it doesn't have stickers or cards, but there are no experience points, which puts little incentive into battling once again. Even Color Splash had more incentive to battle than this, and I don't know why they took a step back. It's like Nintendo just wanted to make a dumbed down adventure game instead of a real RPG, because there's no other way they could have made this mistake 3 times in a row. And yeah, I know people are going to talk about Super and how that's not a real RPG, and while it's not a traditional RPG, it does at least do a lot of what the first 2 games did in a different way, and I'll get to that later. And as for the combat, the board you move enemies around on is an interesting concept which I think plays out alright, but it just gets too tedious. Like the battles in Color Splash, I still very much prefer the original style. I also mentioned how I would talk about some bosses that were not paper, and if you played Origami King, you already know what I'm getting at. There's a Legion of Stationery, which is office supplies that you fight. I thought it was a neat little concept, but I still would prefer to have some more fleshed out villains like in Super Paper Mario. It still seems like Nintendo was hell-bent on just improving the Sticker Star formula instead of either completely changing up or making a sequel to either TTYD or Super. And yes, I know Origami King is different from Sticker Star as I mentioned, but it still shares a ton of the same aspects and problems. At least getting the TTYD remaster shows the original games aren't completely forgotten, and it gives me some hope that the Switch 2's Paper Mario could be a return to form. Number 3, Paper Mario. This game deserves a lot of credit for starting off the series on a great note and laying the groundwork for the games to follow. Story isn't the best, but there's at least an attempt with it. The Peach interludes are a great way to get you more engaged in the story, and it does get a pass for having Bowser as the main villain since this was the first Mario RPG to do so. But there are just so many brand new unique characters here, from the partners, the Toads that actually have distinct personalities, new bosses and NPCs. There are also new locations like Shy Guy's Toy Box and Flower Fields, and there's more going on in the typical environments like the grasslands and desert compared to the regular Mario adventures. Paper Mario also has a brand new battle system where every bit of damage counts. You won't be doing 20 points of damage with an attack, so you need to think what you're going to do. The customization with badges adds more strategy in as well, with all the different options at your disposal. Paper Mario is just an amazing game that started this great series, and I really hope we get a remake of this like TDYD someday, because if we're being honest, I think this actually needed it more, even though it's not as popular. It still actually looks really good for an N64 game, but the game has started to show its age. Number 2, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. This game pretty much improved on the original Paper Mario in every single aspect. Story, gameplay, combat, characters, environment, soundtrack. Thousand Year Door took what made the original great and just made it better. The partners have more personality as they really didn't have much in the original. There are some really amazing and unexpected chapters, such as joining a league where you keep battling in hopes to finally beat the legendary Rockhawk to win it all. There's a mystery on a train that has a private investigator penguin attempting to solve it. You even go to the moon at the end, a whole 13 years before Odyssey did it. The battle system is also greatly improved over the original, and even puts you on a stage with an audience that can both assist you or also try to hurt you. TTYD also has a more interesting story, with the new villains being the X-Nauts, or Cross-Nauts if you pronounce it that way, led by Sir Grotus instead of Bowser. Then there was also the Shadow Queen, which makes this game a lot darker than you'd expect. There's just so much more to say about this game that makes it so amazing. You have the Pianta Mafia and Rogueport, which by itself is something you could talk about for a while, and it's just not typical for a Mario game. You have an amazing soundtrack, which I believe to be the second best in the series. All the hidden secrets, the humor, the new gameplay mechanics that come from the curses. Thousand Year Door is a masterpiece and one of my favorite games of all time, and I probably mentioned it 5 times in this video, but we finally got a remaster after 20 years, so go play that if you have not. I know it can be hard to get the GameCube original, so for a while a lot of people just didn't get a chance to play this, but if you have a Switch or Switch 2, there's no excuse to not play this now if you haven't. And at number 1, Super Paper Mario. Now before you get out your pitchforks, let me just explain why Super Paper Mario is number 1 for me. Every subjective ranking I have done has Super Paper Mario number 1. But beyond it being my favorite Paper Mario game and my favorite Mario RPG, it's one of my favorite games of all time, so obviously it's going to be my favorite in the series. It's a controversial opinion, and I know that, but it's just that, an opinion. You don't have to agree. If you don't like Super Paper Mario, I won't change your mind on it, and you won't change my mind on it. We can't control how much we enjoy a video game, and maybe it's nostalgia, but that's just where I'm putting it on the list. The story is absolutely amazing, and we're probably not going to see a story with as much depth as this in another Mario game, because since Mario Galaxy and Super Paper Mario in 2007, stories of Mario games have definitely gone downhill. Like, there's not that much of a focus on them anymore, which is kind of sad, because I think some of the older Mario RPGs have pretty interesting stories. In fact, there's so much lore in this game that we made a video going over every bit of lore in the game, and it took over 30 minutes, which you can check out here, link in the description. There are brand new villains like Count Blick and Dementio, which make this game a whole lot darker, like with the Shadow Queen and T2ID. These characters are also fan favorites. Count Blick wants to destroy all the worlds due to a tragic event in his life, and there's a few very good twists surrounding this later in the game. The soundtrack also, in my opinion, is the best of any Mario RPG, or at the very least the best in the Paper Mario series. There's just countless amazing songs like The Ultimate Show, Gloom Valley, Merle's Mansion, Sammer's Kingdom, and just so many more. While the game is pretty easy, it's also fun to explore all the environments in 2 perspectives, and I think this was a really interesting gameplay mechanic. It may not have been implemented perfectly, but I really like what Nintendo did with it. As for the environments themselves, let's just take a look at a few. There's a sweatshop located in a giant mansion, a world completely made of bits, a Japanese-inspired kingdom that pits you against samurai-inspired characters, the underwear, which I believe represents between heaven and hell, and the over there, which is meant to represent heaven. The gameplay, while being very easy, is still very enjoyable, as it plays more like a traditional Mario platformer with RPG elements, and that's okay for what it is. It's still way more of an RPG than Sticker Star and Color Splash, and really Origami King also, because there actually is an incentive to battle, and there actually is one base battle later in the game, which is a nice homage to the previous games in the series. Super Paper Mario is also a masterpiece like Thousand Year Door, but I just personally like it better. And for those of you who have been watching Game Domain for a while, you've probably seen the countless Super Paper Mario videos I've made. The previous Paper Mario rankings where Super Paper Mario was at the top, so you expected this. If you're new to the channel, you can check out some of the videos we have on Super Paper Mario. Some go as far back as, I think, 2016. Super Paper Mario is also one of the games that inspired me to make this channel. I originally wanted to make Let's Plays of this in like the early 2010s. Do I think Super Paper Mario is a perfect game? No, but since this is a personal list, I'm just going off how I enjoyed each game, and if I played Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door before this, maybe things would be different, but I'm sure there's plenty of you that played Origami King first and liked that better, and you probably wouldn't have that same opinion if you played it later on. And if you're interested, we actually have a video taking an objective look at Super Paper Mario vs. the Thousand Year Door, so if you want to check that out, click the link in the description. And that's the list. Let us know your rankings in the comments, as well as rankings you would like to see us make in the future. With that being said, if you did enjoy this video, please subscribe and turn on notifications, as well as like so more people will see this. This has been Domain with Game Domain.